Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your program Africa Today, where we'll be bringing you the latest developments on the ground in the African continent, and also we'll be talking about the Iran war and its repercussions on the African continent economically. We'll start off with a report from Nigeria, which is Nigeria's aviation and transport sectors are under pressure as the global fallout from Iran was disrupting fuel markets. Let's watch the report and come back. The ongoing conflict involving Iran is triggering a global fuel crisis, and Nigeria is among the countries feeling the impact. Despite being a major oil producer, Nigeria depends heavily on refined fuel inputs, leaving it exposed to global supply disruptions. Rising fuel prices are now affecting multiple sectors, including aviation. Airlines are facing higher operating costs, forcing some to reduce flights, increase ticket prices, or reconsider routes. This had led to growing concern over what many describe as a jet crisis in the region. While Nigeria's expanding refining capacity, particularly with new domestic facilities, offers some relief, experts say the benefits are not immediate. Transport costs are already rising, affecting both businesses and ordinary citizens. This crisis is also linked to broader global instability. The war's impact on energy and trade is expected to push inflation higher and worsen economic conditions, especially in countries already dealing with insecurity and poverty. For Nigeria, the challenge is balancing its role as an oil producer with the realities of global dependence and domestic demand. As the crisis unfolds, the aviation sector may become one of the clearest indicators of how global conflict can directly affect everyday life. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Still watching Africa Today, and to shed more light on the topic of the economic crisis all over the African continent as a repercussion of the Israeli-Iranian-American war. We are delighted to have with us over the phone Ambassador Ahmed Haggag. He's the former Assistant Secretary General for the Organization of the African Unity. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us today in Nile TV International.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ambassador Haggag, how are the global economy, and especially in Africa, was now due to the Iranian-American war affected recently?
First of all, the United States cancelled most of its economic assistance in aid and aid shipment to the whole world, including Africa, even the most affected countries. And also this war has affected the fragile African economies, which were depending on imports and aid from outside the United States also. The price of foodstuffs and the price of are higher now, and it will be higher. Most African countries, only a few countries in Africa are oil-producing countries, which will benefit not much, but most African countries are importing oil countries, which will affect not only the petrol prices, but the oil which is needed in industry and agriculture. So the economy of African countries will suffer a lot.
Ambassador Haggag, how are the governments responding now to protect the citizens from this rising costs in their daily lives?
Can you repeat it again, please?
I'm asking about the government's response all over the African continent for this hiking prices.
Yes, I think the budgets of most African countries are usually small. They cannot afford to give subsidies to poor people and combat poverty. So they will suffer because the poor sector in most African countries vulnerable to such developments, and they will suffer more than they were suffering now or before.
Ambassador Hajjaj, all or most of the African countries are depending on imports rather than exports. Tell us more about this, and how is this affected by closing the Strait of Hormuz?
Most import items will be are rising in the price, especially energy prices, and also any other manufactured goods will go up, and I think they will not. The African countries will not afford to import them as they usually imported.
Before.
In the past. It is a big dilemma for most African economies.
Ambassador Hajjaj, we just watched a report about Nigeria and the hiking fuel prices, and this is not only in Nigeria, it's all over the world. How can this problem be fixed in these circumstances?
Although Nigeria is one of the biggest oil-producing countries in Africa, it cannot go alone, and they are forced to raise the prices of fuel. So the dilemma for all African countries, either they are producing oil or importing oil, is the same, and this is the same in Middle East countries and the whole world.
Ambassador Hajjaj, we want to talk more about the long-term strategies that can be adopted from the governments and the states in Africa to get over this crisis.
By increasing African cooperation, by adhering to the treaty establishing the African Free Zone, and they respect the rules of the African Free Zone, abolish all custom duties for imports from other African countries. Otherwise, if they don't follow this strictly, and not to evade implementing the rules of the treaty of establishing the African Free Trade Zone, the situation will be worse.
Of course. Ambassador Hajjaj, you just mentioned the Africa Free Trade Area, and what are the latest developments on the ground concerning the treaty, and is it implemented or not yet?
It's implemented. The first phase, at least, they abolishing a certain amount of the custom duties, but some economies and some countries are trying to evade this adherence to the rules, because their treasury minister consider the proceeds of the custom duties is the main ingredient of the national budget. That's why they're trying to find ways and means in order not to implement the abolition of the custom duties envisaged by the African Free Trade Area.
And what are the booming or the promising economies in Africa right now that will implement this free trade accord? Tell me more about some examples of the African countries participating in this treaty.
All African countries are participating.
I know. What are the most promising countries to apply this treaty?
It is the big economic African economies in the continent, which will benefit because it will increase their exports to other African countries, and also they will benefit from attracting investments in their countries from outside the continent in order to benefit from the abolishment of custom duties in the importing countries. So the major beneficiaries are the big economic, like South Africa, Egypt, Nigeria, and Algeria, and Morocco, and so on.
Yeah. Ambassador Hajjaj, we've seen cooperation between the African continent and Russia and the European Union and many other partners. Tell us more about the most effective one in this regard.
The European Union is faithful in its cooperation with African countries. They are giving a lot of aid, and they are driven by their anxiety of increase in African immigration in European countries. So they try to combat this by establishing and giving a lot of aid, establishing projects in the home countries in order to deter the immigration of Africans to those countries. But in the other issue which is affecting African countries is that the United States is almost abolishing its big contribution in the budget of the specialized agencies of the United Nations, like the World Food Program, World Health Program, and UNCTAD and others, which usually have been given the most of its budget to African countries.
Yeah. Well, Ambassador Ahmed Hajjaj, former Assistant Secretary General of the Organization of African Unity, thank you very much for joining us today in Nile TV International. And now, ladies and gentlemen, moving to Mali, where Mali is facing one of its most serious escalations in years as attacks strike major cities in Mali. Let's watch.
Multiple locations across Mali came under attack in a series of near-simultaneous incidents that targeted the key urban centers such as Bamako, Kati, Gao, and Kidal. Residents reported heavy gunfire and explosions, particularly near strategic sites including military bases and the country's main international airport. Authorities confirmed that the security forces responded quickly, engaging in clashes with the attackers and launching sweeping operations to resolve control. Officials stated that the situation was largely contained within hours, although tensions remain high in several areas. At least 16 people were reported injured, while airports were temporarily shut down and curfews imposed in affected areas. The scale and coordination of the attacks have raised concerns about stability in the country as they hit both political and military parts. Witnesses described scenes of anger among civilians, with streets emptied and residents sheltering indoors as security forces work to secure the place. These developments come amid an already fragile security situation in Mali, where violence has intensified over the past years, leading to widespread displacement and humanitarian challenges. The latest attacks highlight ongoing challenges to stability in Mali and underline the urgent need for sustained efforts to restore security and protect civilians.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Still watching Africa Today, and now moving to Somalia, where Somalia is once again battling devastating floods as extreme weather and fragile infrastructure combine to threaten the country. Let's watch.
Heavy rains across Somalia have triggered widespread flooding, displacing thousands of families and destroying homes, farmlands, and critical infrastructure. The situation is particularly severe in low-lying regions where rivers have overflowed, cutting off entire communities and making access for aid extremely difficult. The floods come at a time when Somalia is already struggling with drought, conflict, and economic hardship. According to global assessments, East Africa is facing worsening conditions due to failed rains and rising food prices, leaving millions vulnerable to hunger and humanitarian crisis. Experts warn that the repeated cycle of drought followed by floods is becoming more frequent due to climate change. This not only damages the crops but also spreads the waterborne disease, putting additional pressure on an already fragile healthcare system. Humanitarian organizations are calling for urgent international support as limited funding and access challenges slow down relief efforts. With roads submerged and supply chains disrupted, delivering food and medical aid remain a major challenge. As the water continued to rise, Somalia's flood crisis highlights a broader reality. Climate shocks are no longer isolated events, but part of a growing pattern threatening stability across the region.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of our program Africa Today. Thanks for watching, and please stay tuned for more to come on Nile TV International. This was Abir Mitwali.